Hey, it's Billy, your community coordinator for all things entertainment here at Upper Deck, and thank you so much for tuning in to Upper Deck in Review. Recently Upper Deck released its latest trading card set, and that, of course, is Allegiance Secret Wars 1984, based on the iconic storyline from the 80s. The 90 card character base set also comes with themed inserts, lenticulars, comic cuts, sketch cards, and more. For some insight on the set, Joe and TJ join me for more. Guys, thank you so much for the time.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, man.
So, what made Secret Wars 1984 the storyline the ideal choice when it comes to the Allegiance brand? Joe?
Great question. How could we not? So, when it comes to Marvel Comics and storylines in the 80s, at least mid-80s, this was a layup. This was absolute, and we had to find a way to make it happen.
TJ, what about you?
I mean, it's super iconic. It was, we could talk about Contest of Champions, but the reality is Secret Wars was the first, major Marvel maxi series event. And it was the first Marvel story arc to transcend comic books into product, because the whole point of this was to sell action figures. So now we're in a place where we're using the story to sell trading cards. So it's very, very cool how it's kind of come full circle that way.
TJ, you kind of mentioned it. Not only was a toy line made out of it, but it also is one of the more well-known storylines in Marvel Comics. Was there a lot of pressure getting this one right?
I think all the work was there. Everything was laid out in front of us, and it was actually the fun of the freedom of how can we turn this into a card product.
Yeah, I mean, the best thing about this is how many characters are in there, so it just gives us so much room to play with them in so many different ways.
And, speaking of characters, TJ, the base set is filled with 90 different characters. How much of a challenge was that for you?
I mean, it's a little bit of a challenge, sure, because you have to think about how we're using characters, how we use them differently. Like the Spider-Man here is a great example. So it's the cover to Secret Wars issue 8, and we get to reuse Spider-Man because of the black costume. Then we also get to use him in the red and blue costume. Mm-hmm. So it's just a matter of strategically finding ways to make the base still feel cool and exciting while understanding that there is a limited cast of characters. So it's, could be a little tough, but it's a lot of fun.
I think for a lot of collectors who maybe weren't there when this first kind of came out, they're going to see some of these characters and they're probably going to be like Absorbing Man, Molecule Man, What do you say to things like that?
This is where Marvel really gets to shine. It's the villains. Everybody knows the Human Torch and the Wasp and She-Hulk and Wolverine and all that, and that's great. But there are so many villains in this story. Mm-hmm. Where if you were a new Marvel reader in 1984, you have no idea who Molecule Man is. You have no idea who Absorbing Man is. But now this is your ability to get to know them a little bit more. And I mean, also, what's great about this story, it is an influx of purple and green characters. Right. You have Kang, and you have Molecule Man, and you have the Hulk, and you have She-Hulk. It's all just this purple and green attack on the eyes.
Yeah. And if I could piggyback off of that as well, as TJ mentioned too, not only can you introduce yourself to a lot of the villains in the 1984 storyline here if you're unfamiliar, but as TJ alluded to as well, like this storyline was created in a way to help sell toys. And you can pick that up pretty easily in the writing. A lot of these characters in the early issues will be introduced in a way to expect that most of the readers might not know who this character is. So for example, I think it was issue 1 or 2, like one of the first word bubbles from Hulk was, well, because I have the strength of 1,000 men and I can this and that. And so there was a lot of introductory writing styled after or framed in a way to try to introduce every character to a new reader.
Which is also funny too, because the majority of the characters in this miniseries, both on the heroes and villain side, almost none of them got figures in this toy line.
Oh, really?
Like the first wave, I think there's maybe 8 figures total, and there's I think only 3 villains. It's Doctor Doom, Kang, and Dr. Octopus.
Okay. So let's talk about the state of comics or Marvel comics in this particular time, 1984. I definitely wasn't there at the time, but for you guys, what was that like? Going to the comic book shop and just getting the first issue in your hands, and what was the state of the comic landscape during that time?
Well, I was 3, so that wasn't happening. But these were all Secret Wars, especially. I mean, Marvel in general in the '80s was all stuff that one of my older cousins, she had tons of it, so I was getting all of that through her, which was really cool. But it was great. It was a great time because was this 80? Is it 85? So Marvel had just celebrated their 25th anniversary. Mm-hmm. So I mean, they're riding high. They've got floats in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Right.
All this stuff happening. Marvel is a household brand through comic books. Mm-hmm. So that was really, really cool. And so they were the leader of the pack at that point. And how could they not be? Especially the most popular characters at that point are all appearing in this.
Right.
And then you've got the up-and-comers. Remember, Wolverine at this point is only about a decade old. Mm-hmm. This is a brand new character at this point. So Rogue is in this. She's a brand new character only by like 4 or 5 years.
Wow. Yeah.
So it was really cool, though, because the way all this got put together, their fingers were on the pulse of what the audience really liked. Mm-hmm. And there's still this sense of trying to create something organic and genuine, even though this is a product that's designed to sell another product.
Yep,
I agree. And if I could, I was born in '84, so I wasn't. I was trying to learn how to walk before I could learn how to read these comics. But having said that, this series was instrumental in the way that once my brothers and I reached, 5, 6 years old, around 1990, there were already storylines like this that existed that we could fall in love with, pick up, love, and then keep an eye out for when the next storyline, the next all-encompassing, Marvel Universe storyline would occur. And so this definitely helped my brothers and I get ready for Galactic Storm and other storylines that came very soon after.
See, the funny thing is, for me, my first introduction into Secret Wars was Spider-Man the Animated Series, and just Beyonder and all those characters, and the characters that the heroes that Spider-Man chose. Obviously, legalities and rights and issues and things like that. But that was my first introduction to that sort of storyline, and so just to kind of see it kind of trading card form, that's pretty awesome. So let's talk about the Canvas chapters and how that inserts really recaps the storyline.
Absolutely. I'll just say a few things and I'll flip it over to TJ. So for the Canvas chapters, we wanted a horizontal orientation. We wanted to retell the story here, whereas the base set would be more character driven and focused on single subject characters. So with this, I'm happy with how they turned out. We don't normally pair deco foil on canvas substrate. I think these look great, but I also, on top of that, believe that TJ chose some very great panels to put on here. I actually brought a couple of my favorite examples, but there are some very killer images on these canvas chapters.
Well, I got to give a shout out to the photo team and the type team. When we were working on this, we were all huddled in one of our meeting rooms here for about 2 hours.
Wow.
And we went through all 12 issues together, and we wanted to find the stuff that type could really, the type team could really write about, the stuff that would work for photo as far as like what would fit and technology and all that. So, shout out to Alex and, Patrick and Isaac, all these guys. Like, we really, Peyton, we went through all this stuff together and really tried to make sure we were choosing the best moments, and I think we all crushed it. It was a lot of fun.
So what exactly is going on in this scene right here?
Galactus is losing his power right there, man.
Right on.
Galactus is dying, as it were, but can he really?
Yeah,
right.
His insatiable hunger has knocked him to the ground.
But that's only because he hasn't had a Snickers.
Exactly. Hungry? What? I'm sorry. No licensing fees.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Let's go to the next one. That is an amazing shot of Doctor Doom.
Yeah, Dr. Doom should always look like he's walking into a Bad Boy Records video, and That's 100% the way this looks right
Take that,
here.
take that.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's great. I mean, look, no matter who your favorite character is, Doctor Doom steals this entire miniseries in the same way that he steals the Beyonder's powers. It's awesome. I mean, everything about this is a if you didn't agree with it, it is a reminder as to why, and here we are right there,
Exactly.
why Doctor Doom is the greatest villain, not just in the Marvel Universe, why Doctor Doom is the greatest villain in comics. So
And it's a great point in the storyline, too, how Doctor Doom plans to get at Galactus. And how, very fun.
And of course, you can't talk about Secret Wars without mentioning the black suit for Spider-Man.
yeah.
It's just an amazing card right there. Just great panel. Also, let's talk about the importance of this costume and kind of like this particular character and how it's still relevant today.
Well, here's a fun fact for you. That's not even a panel from Secret Wars.
Oh, okay.
That is from Amazing Spider-Man 252. Is that Roger Stern and Ron Frenz, and that is the technical first appearance of the black costume, because ASM 252 came out before Secret Wars issue 8. So it technically is the first appearance there, but still, there were two comics in particular that we wanted to include in Canvas chapters because of the fallout of Secret Wars, and Amazing Spider-Man 252 is one of them, and I'm sure we'll talk about the other one as we go forward.
Joe, for you, what has this character meant for you?
For us as a business, this is the most collectible character under any license we have. It makes all the sense in the world to lean into one of the more iconic storylines featuring this character. I mean, that storyline features all of these characters, but the most significant, one of the more significant moments that occur is, as TJ mentioned too, not technically the first appearance of the black suit in issue 8, however, it was iconic, the inclusion of.
So the set also pays homage to the amazing art on the covers of the issues, as well as the corner boxes. Let's talk about that particular inserts.
Absolutely. So we wanted to lean into we spent a few more dollars on these inserts, and what we can see is there is light effects technology on these and the upcoming cards, and you can see that rainbow spectrum, but also there's a etching in the foiling. But this was also, again, kind of a layup because we have access to certain assets, and it was, well, if we're focusing on the storyline, let's at least include these iconic covers somewhere. And so that was the direction here.
And for you, TJ, what is this cover meant for, I think, a lot of collectors today? And
I mean, it's one of the most iconic covers in the history of comics. It's been homaged countless times in comics. It's been homaged on hip-hop album covers. I mean, it is... That might be as iconic for Spider-Man as Amazing Fantasy 15 is. So, it's so cool. I mean, the concept of the costume, it was two fans who came up with the idea for a new Spider-Man costume and submitted it to Marvel, and the rest was history. Yeah. So it's amazing.
Yeah, and Marvel was working with focus groups at the time as well. So I think the first name of this storyline was rejected by that focus group. So, and here we have the corner box cards. DJ and I, we love the corner boxes, and it just made a lot of sense that, yes, we have these covers, but also very iconic are the Marvel corner boxes. So we also have these cards printed on light effects technology, so there is a bit of that rainbow spectrum to it. But yeah, TJ, tell us a bit more, please.
I mean, these were a lot of fun because these were all technically fantasy corner boxes. We had created essentially lineups for it, and this is awesome here because this one is our Avengers corner box, so all of the Avengers who are in Secret Wars are all right there, and I mean, again, it's just way cool. The corner box is always something that any of us from our era of comics have such an affinity for, so seeing us get to do it is very cool.
So Upper Deck is always pushing the envelope when it comes to trading card technology. What inserts is one of the examples of that?
And just guessing, but we have a Marvel Team Ups, which is also a light effects technology. It's got that rainbow spectrum shine with the etching on there too. What we see here is Magneto and Professor X. Rarely a team up, but it's a fun portion of this storyline when Magneto comes knocking on the X-Men's door. But back to the technology, as we've seen, we have the canvas substrate, we have light effects technology. We have hollow foil cards, we have pattern foil cards, embossing, lenticulars, comic cuts, etc. And here, and correct me if I'm wrong, I might say the wrong name, Julia Carpenter.
That is correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
I accidentally said Jennifer Lawrence last week for some reason.
No.
No idea. And as I mentioned, this is one of our lenticular cards. We have a depth lenticular of our ensemble, vertical orientation. We also have what we see here, our pattern foil board, Spider Woman here. I believe these are to $199 orange glitter. I could be wrong. And yes, we have our yellow crackle. Actually, I'm going to stop saying the parallel names because I don't remember them offhand.
Yeah, yellow crackle.
Okay, perfect.
Number
Look at that.
149.
So we have our black suit. Very cool card.
Love it. There
Yes,
it is.
we have our purple boxes. We have Wolverine we're looking at here. Also serial numbered. And we brought a backup, because obviously Doom. I mean,
All
what is
caps.
this? What is this storyline other than a Doom success story, essentially? You want them to take out Beyonder? Well, I won't ruin it for anybody, but Doom definitely has a good go.
So I love this card, I have to say, only because out of context, when you look at it, you can hear the sad walking away music from the Incredible Hulk show in the 70s, and that just makes it even better. So anybody who's watching this, if you don't know, pause and then put on that song while you're looking at this. Trust me. It makes it even better.
That is great.
All right, let's go to Spectromatic.
Okay. Spectromatic is an insert we can see in the Allegiance brand product in the previous release, Avengers vs. X-Men, but also in Infinity Trilogy. And what we have here is that Spectromatic. Same color, colorways, same serial numbering. We have some fantastic artwork from the mid-'80s, as we have Iron Man here on our orange Spectromatic. And we also have right here, Claw. Who doesn't like Claw? Built from sound waves. Doesn't he look like a loaf of bread right now? But
He's the best thing since.
This is our hollow foil pattern foil board. These are serial number 210, I believe. But yes, we have two different one-of-ones in this product. We have a gold explosion, and then we have a hollow foil gold. What we have here is our Light Effects embossed Doom Base card featuring Dr. Octopus. I'd like to say that we're very happy with the designs that Mary created, but also for the photos and the type that TJ and the photo and the type team worked out and worked through. These cards turned out very cool. Another card to keep an eye out for with the same type of technology is a card called New Suits. And as we touched on briefly, there's a couple new suits in this storyline. We also have a couple new characters, so keep an eye out for that checklist. It's very fun.
And it's always fun getting a comic cut insert. You kind of mentioned it, but when you're ripping a pack, what was that process like, TJ? Just choosing the right panels to cut out.
I mean, that was the thing. It's always going to be hard because choosing what you can say is the right panel is subjective, because everybody's going to have a different favorite moment. Right. There are some that are shared, but then there are others where it's kind of like, oh, okay, like that moment, like even right here with Volcana and Molecule Man, it's kind of I don't want to say a more subdued moment, especially because you don't see Volcana in her fired up form, but she's gushing all over Molecule Man here, and he kind of got used as a bit of a punching bag throughout this. So,
I mean, look at his face. You can tell. No, just
every dog has his day, and Molecule Man's having his.
And of course, no Marvel Publishing trading card set is complete without a creator auto insert. How important was it to include that for collectors?
Oh, absolutely. In the back of my mind, I'm saying we don't have a product without it. And, a lot of people, there are character collectors, there are people who are out to get, the top cards, serial numbered, one of ones. But at the end of the day, people want their creator autographs. People want a piece, a slice of some of the creators who, not to sound redundant, created the storylines and the comics that the collectors fall in love with.
With this one too, I mean, Bob Layton did fill in on 2 issues, but primarily this is a story by Jim Shooter and Mike Zeck, and so it's super important for us to be able to do autos on here because primarily there are only 2 creators that we have on this here. So like right there, you got Mike Zeck with 2/4 of the Wrecking Crew and or half of the Wrecking Crew, I guess in this case. I told you I went to a New York City high school, man. I don't math.
We're good.
It's great to see his auto on these cards because his artwork. I mean, he's one of the iconic '80s Marvel artists, but guys like Jim Shooter and Mike Zeck brought legitimacy to a story that could have been seen as just a cash grab. Mm-hmm. So it's a really big deal for us.
I agree. And to TJ's point, one of the things to point out too is on these publishing products under these Allegiance brand with storylines, very few potential signers, very few creators, especially the further back we go. Mm-hmm. So it was we're very happy to have acquired the signatures that we needed for this product.
Also, it feels good to know that they want to work with us as well.
Yeah,
I was talking about, lending legitimacy to that story. When you get these guys who really are foundational for what we all love, it says a lot about them agreeing to work with us as well. And that's always a great feeling.
Absolutely.
I would say in 2024, we kind of went through the decades, whether it be from the 1950s in our retro sets to 84 and to 89. What would you say is the biggest difference when it comes to artwork from the several decades, especially the 1980s? What separates the 80s from the other ones?
I mean, it's the artwork, it's the coloring, it's the technologies that were available at the time. Mm-hmm. And as I will shoot it over to TJ momentarily, but one of the main reasons why my brothers and I really fell in love with comics around the turn of the 1990s and further was a lot of it was just colored different and drawn different. But for the sake of your question here, is that yes, I mean, these cards, this artwork is a sign of the times, and you can absolutely, just by glancing at it, well, TJ can tell you the artist just by glancing at it, but just you can tell the time frame, you can tell the decade usually just by looking at the artwork, but also the method for coloring it as well.
It's the John Byrne She-Hulk hair. It's just the big, massive green hair. That's the change, and that's it. No, it's so cool to see how it's never about, oh, that looked bad when you go back into the past. Yeah. It's, oh, that was very much what was happening at the time. Yeah. And the stuff that happened previously allows artists to be able to do what they're doing today. And by the time you get to this point in the 80s right here, mm-hmm. I mean, there are superstars at that point who are doing what they do because of their favorite artists 15, 20 years prior when they were reading comics as kids. And when you get to these guys from like these 80s guys that were like super, super hot, you don't get them and not get the guys that are working today. So it's nice for us to be able to explore these years, these decades, and see how comics continues to evolve.
That's a great point. Any decade you look at, those people crawled so the next people can run. And you just stagger it back and back and back. It's absolutely. We wouldn't be where we are here today if it weren't for every single creator along the way.
So sketch cards are also part of the set. How important was that to include for collectors?
Well, collectors love sketch cards. So in my mind, the creator autograph and the sketch card just have to be in the product, and especially on a publishing product, we have to figure out a way to make them both work, because many times, most times, in most products, those are the two biggest hits in a publishing product. And so, in my job, many of the creative much of the creative aspect is, how can I create something that might rival those as case hits, something that collectors might learn to or over time desire, if we create something that gains that equity over time. But to answer your question, sketch cards, absolute must. Absolute.
One of the things I love about sketch cards on products like Allegiant Secret Wars is it's modern artists doing interpretations of stuff from 30 years ago, and they're
4
still
years ago now.
Jeez.
Oh boy.
God.
Oh boy.
But they're taking their own personal styles or their own personal techniques and applying them to what are now considered old costumes. But back then it was, no, this is new and this is exciting and all that. And it's always nice to see people reinterpret comics from different periods, and that's the beauty of our sketch card artists.
So this is going to be off the brand question for you guys. This is the last Allegiance trading card set that we're doing here for a Marvel product. For you guys, let's reflect. What has that experience for you guys been like, and what's it been like to also be able to pick out which storylines to really focus on, especially when creating this kind of product?
Well, that's a great question too. Unfortunately, the people at the top choose the storylines, but we are involved in suggestions. But this storyline in itself, and the Infinity Trilogy and Avengers versus X-Men, these are all major storylines that, fortunately, unfortunately, well, I will say, unfortunately, we have to, end with what has been released when it comes to Marvel products. But with this Allegiance brand, it's a very exciting time to lean into more storylines. Had we had the opportunity to lean in more with Marvel storylines, we absolutely would have loved to.
TJ?
I guess it's kind of full circle for me and my Upper Deck career. We've both been here 2.5 years now, and the very first product of mine that got released, because there were multiple things I had worked on at once, but the first product that I worked on that got released was Allegiance Avengers versus X-Men. Wow. And it was an absolute thrill. I talked about it before when we had done this a while back. That story was coming out when I was working at a comic book store, so seeing a product that I had worked on about that story was an absolute thrill. But it's a really nice period at the end of the sentence that my first was Allegiance Avengers versus X-Men, and my last Marvel product is Allegiance Secret Wars. So both have so many of the same characters in those stories, both have the exciting, craziness in the mighty Marvel manner that you expect. And it's a nice way to kind of sunset.
Wonderfully said, TJ. Any last words?
Had a lot of fun working on the Marvel Allegiance storyline products, and looking forward to what more creative things we can come up with in the future for our collectors.
Well, I just want to say you guys knocked these out of the park. Just
Thank you.
Being able to kind of like touch on, even the last 3 of these have been amazing, and congratulate you guys and the rest of the other team that really pushed all these past the finish line, finished out the year.
Well, thank you, and thank you for helping shed light on this at the public level and social media. So thank you.
Look, man, it takes a village.
Exactly.
And I think in this case, it took a universe to create a universe, and I think that was what all of us did.
Yeah, and in the storyline, Hulk might be holding up a mountain, but internally, we are all helping.
There you go.
This mountain.
All right, guys. Well, that'll do it for this edition of Upper Deck in Review. I want to thank TJ and Joe again for a behind-the-scenes look at the Legion Secret Wars 1984 trading card set, and thanks to the viewers for tuning in. And before we go, definitely subscribe to our other social media pages and hit that notification bell for the latest updates, and smash the like button on this video. And again, don't forget about upcoming trading card sets, prints, and games. So stay tuned. Till next time, I'm Billy, and you're watching Upper Deck in Review.